Hola chavos, ¿cómo están? Pues aquí estamos una vez más en el Museo Marco aquí en Monterrey y pues hoy les vamos a presentar una super primicia. Nos dio una entrevista Brandon Haw, este excelente arquitecto que también colabora con Norman Foster and Partners. Entonces vino desde Inglaterra. Ahora sí que les traemos una super primicia y pues también les vamos a enseñar la plática, bueno, unos cortos ahí de la plática y todo lo que ha hecho este excelente arquitecto. No se despeguen. Well, thank you very much for this quick interview, and I'm gonna ask you some questions. Please, Brandon House. At what level do you consider Monterrey City is? Like, what is your diagnosis of how great is the city?
I've only been to Monterrey a couple of times now, but I was privileged enough to have a helicopter ride over the city. And what struck me from the air, certainly, is its horizontality. Not only do you have the verticality of the mountains all around, but the city itself. And then when you come down to the ground, you have fantastic university buildings, hospital buildings, cultural buildings like the one we're in. So it has this dynamism as a city. But I think what strikes me is the reliance on the motor car and the way it's spread horizontally. And I'm not an expert on what the infrastructure is of the city, but certainly you suddenly say, well, where's the metro? How does the bus system work? And you start to ask those questions.
Oh, well, another question, please. So, how have you seen the role of infrastructure again in developing societies? Like, for example, here in economy.
I think infrastructure is absolutely fundamental to the future of our cities. Greater densification of our cities, less reliance on the motor car, the time spent traveling in traffic jams. I mean, Mexico City is a perfect example. Sao Paulo is another good example. It takes you hours to get from A to B. That is unsustainable. So the greater densification of cities, infrastructure plays a very important role. When you land in a city, how do you get from the airport into the city? A good example again would be Bilbao, where the Bilbao Metro actually changed people's habits.
And is like all again in the same context of the social question, how do you think that Foster and Partners have contributed in Mexico?
Well, the main project that we have on the drawing boards at the moment is the Health City in Mexico City, which is part of the Mayor's initiative for Knowledge City. And that was a project that really tries to preserve the aquifer, capture the water, leave a lot of the land, over 50% of the land is left for natural open space. So the volcanic caves are preserved, the natural fauna and flora of the site are preserved, and as I said, the water table also is fulfilled by allowing penetration of water, which is a challenge in Mexico City.
It's been quite a challenge. And for my last question is, in the biggest structures like you do, or well, how technology has advanced in what you do, like in new technologies?
I think new technologies have a tremendous role to play. Of course, the very fact that with computers now we can draw things that we couldn't draw before by hand. It would have been too difficult to draw. So the analysis that computers can bring in 3 dimensions allows us to design buildings in a different way. But technology takes you so far, but it's also very important to look to the past and learn from the technologies of the past. And the great the great thing that man can do is actually learn from history, bring his new expertise and marry those two things together. And that's what makes civilization. I will be talking about the way cities developed and what are the ingredients that make a great city. Infrastructure, buildings, cultural buildings, places to live, places to work, all the ingredients, whether they're buildings or the spaces between the buildings, that make a city.
So Mexico is like a spicy city for you?
A spicy city. I think it's definitely a spicy city. Yes.
Thank you very much for this interview. It's been a pleasure, and this is all for us.
Thank you. In many ways, buildings become a symbol of the city. Constant, certainly the symbol of Frankfurt as a banking centre of Europe. The Neil Viaduct, which the French are very proud of, or Wembley on postage stamp, or indeed the Beijing airport, which used on every single Coke can that was sold during the Olympics. We just missed the trip there, not getting royalty for that. I wish we had. Anyway, so cultural landscape and cultural buildings. Cultural buildings have the ability to regenerate urban areas, and certainly Nîmes is a very good example of that. Or the Sage in Gateshead, which is shown just here, which is a northern town in England, very downtrodden industrial city. By building this great big theatre, it's one of the most important opera houses in Europe now, in the north of England, and it regenerated the whole riverfront. So Wembley Stadium that we built, or Camp Nou in Barcelona, which we're refurbishing and recladding and bringing into a new era, or the Reichstag, working with history.